Hello and welcome to the People's Behind the Pipes podcast, where we are going to explore the people, programs, and priorities that keep natural gas flowing safely and reliably throughout Western Pennsylvania. I'm your host, Nick Paradise, Communications Manager here at Peoples. And today we're going to talk about safe digging. August is the 8th month, and so on the 11th day of August, 8/11, utilities all over the country, especially Peoples, highlight the importance of safe digging, calling 811 before you dig for any project. Joining us today to talk more about that is Marcus Petrisek. Marcus is a damage prevention supervisor here at Peoples, working out of our central office, which covers Pittsburgh and areas surrounding it. So he's going to help us learn a little bit about what the damage prevention team does at Peoples and why that simple step of calling 811 before you dig is so important. So Marcus, welcome.
Good morning. How are you, Nick?
Good. It's good to be here with you. So just to start, before we get into some of those details, tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background here, how long you've been with Peoples, and what you do.
So I've been with Peoples for about 9.5 years. Next January will be my 10th year. I started in the field working in the ditch, and then I located for about 7 years. And then I decided to take the opportunity to become the supervisor. So I went from the field of doing the job to now helping supervise those that are doing the job.
For anyone that may not be familiar, just starting with the topic of 811 day and safe digging, what is 811 and why is it so important?
So 811 is the free number to call to place a one call or a locate request that is free for all homeowners. Contractors have a fee, but for anyone who's just doing a fence or putting a mailbox in, a little gardening, all they have to do is call 811 3 days before they want to start their project. Mm-hmm. And that will put a call into the 811 center, and the 811 center lets all of the utilities know in the area of, hey, this homeowner at 123 Main Street is going to do some landscaping. They want to begin on Monday the 31st at 8 a.m. So can you please have your facilities marked? You
mentioned locators, but if we explain a little bit about that, our team will go out and they'll check, and as well as other utilities. And what are the benefits to that? Like both what do the staff in the field do, as well as what benefits does it bring to have that done, have the call made, and then the utilities go out to the site?
So the biggest key there is damage prevention. You know, it's not just a title, it's an entire thought process. So when a utility locator goes out, they will actually either put paint on the ground or flags of different colors of different utilities. Us being Peoples with gas, we're yellow. And we will locate our lines, you know, and then we locate our line and there's a gap of 18 inches on either side of that the law states that's where safe digging practices. So for a homeowner, that just means using a shovel, not renting an excavator and digging around those markings. But in the interest of safety, you know, you've got gas or electric, you don't want to strike one of those lines and potentially cause a severe incident. And that's the whole point of 811 and damage prevention. Wow. And you don't want to be that annoying neighbor who cuts off your neighbor's internet access while they're working from home.
Right. Yes, it's, you know, we talk about gas, that's our focus, but certainly it's gas, it's the electric, it's internet, water, all those things. Yeah. So you mentioned a few of them. What kind of projects, though, require a call to 811?
Definition by law basically boils down to any time you put a shovel in the ground.
Yeah.
Is that it can be as simple as you're just taking off a little bit of your topsoil to put a new, you know, you're planting a couple of flowers. That requires a one call. And like I said, it's free for homeowners. There's no reason not to be able to do it. I know, you know, that here at Peoples, one of our biggest damage causes is no one call. Mm-hmm. I know of other gas utility companies that it's actually half of their damages are caused by people not placing a locate request. Yeah. So you're doing any sort of planning, any landscaping, mailboxes, you know, even to something as big as putting the new Commercial Street Bridge in. They've had one calls throughout that entire process.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it is interesting because, you know, I think a lot of folks might think, oh, I'm just, as you said, just putting in some flowers or, you know, vegetable garden and I don't need to call. But the lines, whether it's Peoples or otherwise, they aren't necessarily super deep beneath the ground. They're not, like they're there. And
you could never really tell how deep something is. Sometimes communications, telephone and internet are only a couple inches. And if there was work done in your property, you bought a new house, and you want to re-landscape, you don't know how much dirt was there before. Your gas line could only be a couple inches deep. So that's to exercise caution by calling 811 and getting those lines marked out.
Could you talk about that maybe from your experience just in the field, like, in some, if you've experienced, any stories about, just the amount of work it creates and issues that can arise, from that real world experience you've had?
If someone fails to follow the law and not dig prudently, that like I said, that basically means using a shovel within that 18-inch on either side of the marked zone. It can be simple, but it's also very dangerous. Now, you could just put your neighbor out of the phone service, but if you strike a gas line, it could be something that is a couple of days worth of repair. Yeah. That you've got escaping gas, and that's a very hazardous situation that, we will come out and we will make the scene safe, but then on the back end, trying to make the repair can take quite a while.
If somebody does have an experience where they uncover, any sort of line or facility while they're doing their work, what should they do?
So if a homeowner uncovers a line and ordered a contractor and, accidentally hits it, especially if it's a steel line and, we want to make sure that there's not a potential leak in the future, or if it's a plastic one, it does leak. The law states that you must call both 811 and 911 and notify the facility owner. Easiest thing is call 911 and step away from the scene, make it safe, make yourself safe. And then 911 will contact Peoples or other facility owners directly. Mm-hmm. And then we respond and do what we need to do. But the best thing to do is just call 911, even if it's, you find that there's a water line that's leaking. And then if it's something else that's a non-hazardous situation, you call 811 back and they will send the locators back out, or the facility owner will send a representative to be able to make that determination on what needs done.
Okay. Yeah, that's important. We don't want people to assume, well, I just tapped it with my little spade. It's fine. You just never know. So, what's one thing that you would like every homeowner listening to this to remember as it relates to safe digging practices?
If you're, always call 811, and anytime that you see paint or flags on the ground, use a shovel around them. That's the easiest thing to do. You want to be safe and you want to follow the law. So if you're safe and you're using a shovel, don't put your fence post right over someone's paint. Yeah. But move a little bit. But you can dig around those marks. Just make sure that you're using a shovel or other soft digging.
Okay. And then I want to transition a little bit. We spend a lot of time on this issue speaking to homeowners because they're not dealing with this stuff on a day-to-day. But it's also in a lot of the work that you're doing and your team is doing. A lot of the tickets that are placed are related to contractors and major jobs, and maybe that's putting in a deck or something like that for a homeowner, but it also could be new lines for a utility, a new, we mentioned the Commercial Street Bridge, those sorts of major projects. Just for contractors, people that work in that space are listening, what are some of the most important things that might be different for a contractor versus a homeowner, when it comes to this area?
So for a contractor, the big thing is that there is a provision in the law that they must maintain the markings. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't work around them. It's an active construction site. You're going to have equipment moving and people walking. But you must maintain those markings, and then if they are faded or if you can't see them anymore, you need to place an update ticket, which means you call 811 and you say, hey, I'm still here. Here's my original one-call number. Work is continuing, but the marks need updated. In the state of Pennsylvania, with one-call law, your one call doesn't expire until your equipment leaves the site. So if you have a large project and you're maintaining the marks, you actually don't need to call in that update as long as you can maintain those marks and see them. One call has actually said, the one call system itself has said, you don't need to call in an update if you can still see the marks.
Okay. And another issue that I know in some meetings that I've been a part of that I've heard about more often is the practice of potholing, and then that can, prevent a lot of damages for contractors. It's maybe not something that, maybe a little too complex for homeowners, but that can be an important practice to prevent, because they're just digging more, or they're going deeper more often. But what is potholing, and why is that an important safety advancement for contractors?
So potholing is also called daylighting. It depends on who you're talking to. But potholing or daylighting simply means that you, as a contractor, are using your safe excavation, you're using vacuum equipment or hydrovac or shovels, hand tools, and you're excavating over a mark, and within that 18-inch on either side tolerance to say, okay, yeah, here's the facility. We know where it is now. It's this deep. And if you do that and you come down and say that you're looking for a water line and you don't find anything in that hole, then you can call 811 again and say, hey, attention, water company, you said this was marked. We can't find this here. You need to come back out and give us accurate markings.
Okay. Trust but verify, it sounds like.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Very good. No, that makes a lot of sense. So, well, thank you for all that explanation. This is, as we said, a huge safety topic. You and I work together a lot, but especially every April at the start of the season, when things start to pick up, Safe Digging Month, August 11th, 811 Day. But we'll see it be busy in this area. I don't want to quite say year round, although I know there is things going on year round, but especially throughout kind of spring through fall. Is that right? Or
generally Easter to Veterans Day is what we call dig season, because that's generally when we're our busiest. Generally, if we don't have a winter like we did last year that shut down the city for a week and a half, we're fairly busy year round.
Yeah. So just, no matter what folks are doing, as they're working at home or they're working on the job, make sure before you dig that hole, make 811 your goal. Call 811 before you dig, and be very careful near the markings with the safe digging practices. You can find more information on our website, www.peoples-gas.com. Thank you for listening here to the first edition of the People Behind the Pipes podcast. For Marcus, I'm Nick Paradise, and we thank you for listening, and we'll be coming to you regularly to discuss other important safety topics and important issues related to natural gas, related to Peoples, how to ease your bills, lower your bills potentially, and more. So be sure to subscribe and follow us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.